Here's the thing. The DA is a big dilemma. And the dilemma of the DA is race. Let's be honest about it. The DA is a party of white people. You must not camouflage this. They will tell you some other stories. That's nonsense. It's a party of white people formed by white people in response to the political changes that had taken place in South Africa after 1994. That's the bottom line. And the question that the political question historically that has troubled white people or animated white politics has been, what do we do as a minority to control the majority? That has been the problem. This question has arisen in the DA, not directly, but in subtle ways. At some point, the white wire pullers decided we can control the majority by adopting black leaders and giving them positions of leadership. But when they are in positions of leadership, we must not allow them to be independent. We must control them. That was the strategy. And that strategy at some point failed, collapsed. The departure of Lindiwe, the departure of Musi, Mashele and others was because that strategy was not working. So the next strategy was, let us take back our party. That was the next strategy. That's where the DA is now, taking back their party. That is white people. Helen Zille controlling it, saying, we have tried. In fact, Tony Leon called Musi Maimane a project, an experiment gone wrong. So if the DA wants to grow and be the government of South Africa by winning an electoral majority, it will have to recognize that South Africa is a country with a black majority. Number one. Number two, therefore, it must be led in the main by blacks, and the whites must also be part of that leadership. And the whites who are in the party, including the blacks who are in the party, who are in the leadership, must both be independent, and they must place matters on the table and debate sincerely and honestly. No one must manipulate the other. For as long as the whites in the DA think that they can manipulate blacks in the DA, let me tell you, the DA will not go anywhere. So the ball is in the court of the DA, really. What does it want to do with its own future? If it wants to be the government of South Africa elected by the majority of this country, it must allow independent blacks to swell the ranks of the party as well as the leadership echelons. And those must be characters who are independent, progressive, as well as patriotic. That's the formula. If the DA doesn't adopt that formula, it will remain in the 20s. It will be invited as a coalition partner. It will never be a governing party in South Africa.
Yeah, I think you're being generous when you say they will remain in the 20s, because they've got a dwindling electorate that's actually shrinking. Right? It's the one demographic in South Africa you can safely say is shrinking. So it's not even a holding position, it's a declining position, because the white population is declining, and there's no ways that if they don't become more appealing to the majority of South Africans, that they'll even hold their 20%.
Yeah, in the short term, I think they can hold their 20% in the short term, because there is a stratum of the black middle class, by the way, that is frustrated by the general collapse of black politics and the general collapse of governance in South Africa. And that small stratum of the black middle class is willing to cross the line and say, we can vote the DA, even though we can see this is a white party. And that stratum, it's logic. It's very simple. They look at the governance record of the DA in the Western Cape and Cape Town in particular, and say, but this government there in the Western Cape, it's better compared to the rest of the other governments of the ANC. So that stratum is there. That is the stratum that is actually, that has taken the DA to where it is now, in around the 20s. For how long will this stratum continue to vote for the DA is an open question. It depends on whether the DA changes or not. If the DA doesn't change, that strata might actually get offended down the road and jettison the DA.
Yeah, because I presume the tactic of saying, well, look at our cabinet ministers, look at a wonderful job they're doing, they're so approachable, fixed up home affairs and that's not really going to get them a whole lot of votes from people outside of that stratum.
No. It won't. It won't. The fastest growing party in South Africa, I mean, it's Umkhonto weSizwe, right? You need that vote if you want to grow big. And that vote is black. And in the main, by the way, these are poor. These are not middle class people, by the way. These are poor people living in the townships and rural South Africa. Now, in order for a party to capture that vote, that group, which is huge, wants to see each other in the political parties that we have. So if the DA wants to capture that vote, it has to reflect also the leaders and the representatives of this vast majority of South Africans.